All right, if we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to start out by I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. We need a motion to approve Board of Education meeting minutes for April 11th, 2019.
Move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Oh, that passes. All right, next we have patron comments, and we do have one this evening. So I'm just going to read this little thing about what patron comments are all about. So during patron comments, citizens may address the Board of Education concerning issues related to the school district. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. We have one speaker tonight, so I don't have to read the next sentence. Please note that at the board's discretion, the board or superintendent may respond immediately to an issue raised during patron comments for clarification. However, our general practice is to respond to the comment at a later time via a phone call or written message if a response is needed. So we have a table with microphones ready so both the board and the audience may hear the patrons' comments clearly. And board meeting proceedings are also recorded and posted on Rockwood's YouTube channel. So this evening we do have a patron comment, so we're going to have the 3-minute clock ready. And I'd like to welcome Kevin Keating from the Masonic Lodges. We're going to have a presentation about what they have done, which is pretty cool. Welcome. You can sit down. Carmen Fisher, do you want to
stand, if that's
come?
good.
Oh, you want to stand? I'm sorry. Sure.
So, these Freemasons in Missouri have, and other states have made it a top priority this year to help pay down the negative student lunch balances. Last year we did get involved with Rockwood School District, and I think we gave you a $2,000 donation, maybe a little bit more. This year it's been a direction from the Grand Lodge, which is the governing lodge that's over all of our lodges in Missouri. There's 320 Masonic lodges, to make this a top priority. So today we've given almost $250,000 to the effort. Tonight this is something a little dear to my heart. When we have a hungry child that's not learning correctly in school, that's a problem. So tonight we have 2 lodges, St. Louis, Missouri Lodge number 1 out of Creve Coeur, and Bottom Lodge number 45 out of Baldwin, Missouri, that have decided to pay down the entire negative account balances in Rockwood School District, totaling $16,500. I have checks made out for the worst case scenarios, the worst schools that were in the most need. I was given a list of negative balances and then free and reduced meals. Whatever schools had the greatest need, we're presenting checks to those specific schools. Hopefully that will get past some paperwork so that those kids can continue eating for the remainder of the year. We feel that if you have a hungry child in class that's not learning correctly and is disrupted because he's hungry, not only does it impact him in learning, but it also impacts the child next to him that is eating correctly. And I think that you as educators have such a tough job in trying to figure out the curriculum and how to make that something that the child can use to succeed over the years. But I think when you have a kid that's walking into the classroom and he's hungry, you're already starting at a deficient. So what we're trying to do is we'd like to pay to make sure these kids can eat, but also by Masons also standing up and saying this is a problem and we want to get involved, is to possibly shed light on the fact that there needs to be a change, whether it's a change in the way a meal is paid for, maybe go back to a free meal to where everybody's eating for free, maybe it's something across government levels, but this is just to show that Masons are about a little under 3 million in North America still. We're about 4.5 million worldwide, and there's a Masonic lodge in every single country. We're showing that we are here as Freemasons, saying that this is important to us and that we're going to do whatever we have to do to help these kids eat while they're learning. So that's what we're here to do tonight. So.
very much. I think we'd also like to introduce Carmen Fisher, runs our food service, so I think it's just great. Carmen, did you want to say anything, or?
We're just super appreciative of all their donations. They help so many hungry kids, and it'll be appreciated. And, yeah, I don't know what to say. Yeah,
It's great,
truly
thank you.
appreciate it.
No, I just, thanks. I mean, a gift from the heart, quite obviously, and obviously we accept from the heart. It's a challenging topic because there's all kinds of variables that come to play when kids aren't bringing the money to school for, and we work with them and we work with them and we work with them. At some point in time, it becomes a very difficult situation for us because we obviously the food isn't free, and we have to be careful what we're putting back on the taxpayers and so on and so forth. So we occasionally have generous things like this, not somebody just wiping the slate clean for us like this, but it's obviously a heartfelt gift, and just thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
It is, and we look at it as the ability to just assist, and we consider it something that we look at as value. That thank you for letting us do that for the community. But at the same time, this was money that was generated between St. Louis, Missouri Lodge number 1, which is the oldest lodge in Missouri, 203 years old, and Baldwin Lodge, which is about 178 years old. But what we did is we raised the money through both lodges, and then we actually entered into a partnership called the Creative Partnership Program through the Masonic Home of Missouri, which is our charitable group. And through the Creative Partnership, they actually matched our funds. So we raised $8,250, and they matched it. So maybe this is something that we can open up dialogue between the Masonic lodges and the school districts, because if we can help each other with fundraisers, we can make it more, our top priority with the parents that maybe are keeping their accounts paid in full, saying that there are families out there that need assistance that aren't low income. This is a middle income family problem. But if we can get that information out, and to even help raise money to where the Masonic Home will then match those funds, trying to create a partnership with you and them, I think that would be something that I would like to, open that discussion and get started. Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have superintendent board comments. So we're going to start with our superintendent, Dr. Eric Knost.
Evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to try to be brief because of that hockey game that everybody keeps reminding me about. But I'm not going to let that shortchange some of the important things that I have to share tonight. So first, right off the bat, we have made it customary in the last 5 years that when we approve administrators in closed session, that we make an announcement about those administrators in open session so we can celebrate their hiring. So I'm going to start first with our Rockwood Valley assistant principal, and in a minute I'll have her stand up, but first we have the board has voted to approve Ms. Beth Ruda. Beth is currently a 6th grade language arts teacher at Rockwood Valley Middle School. It's a position she has held since 2015. In addition, she has served as the department chair since 2018. And prior to coming to Rockwood, she was an 8th grade teacher and administrative intern at Fremont Middle School in Illinois. And Ms. Ruda earned a master's degree in educational administration from Northern Illinois University and a bachelor's degree in K through 9th grade science, social studies, and English from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. She is currently in the doctoral program for educational administration at some university that we just don't know if we want to say the name, Maryville University. And she will assume the position currently held by Dr. James Allison, who will be leaving the district in June of 2019. So we are extremely happy and thrilled to announce and introduce Miss Beth Ruda. Beth, could you stand up and be acknowledged? Congratulations, Beth. Also, the board voted to select our next Eureka High School assistant principal, and they voted to bring Mr. David Aldridge. I keep wanting to say Aldridge. Correct? I'm saying that right, Dave. Arledge, as I said, Arledge. That's why we have them here, so we can say their names appropriately, says a guy with the last name Knost.
host.
Dave is currently the assistant principal at McClure North High School. He served students of the Ferguson-Florissant School District since 2015, beginning as assistant principal for student instruction at McClure High School. In addition, he was an assistant principal at Riverview Gardens High School for 4 years. He began his career in education in 1997 on the Winnebago Native American Reservation as an English teacher and has taught high school English in the Clark County Schools in Las Vegas and at the Riverview Gardens High School. Mr. Arledge earned a master's degree in educational administration from Nova Southeastern University in Las Vegas. His bachelor's degree in elementary education is from York College in Nebraska. He is currently in the doctoral program for educational administration and leadership at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. He will assume the position currently held by Brad Klages, who is retiring at the end of the school year. So, we introduce to you Mr. David Arledge. And Dave, the board president, just acknowledged your purple tie, so it was not all for naught. We fully
Well done.
see that was well done.
Well done.
So, congratulations to both of you. We are thrilled to have you in these new roles, and thanks for being here tonight. All right, a few other comments really quick. Every year I feel like I'm saying this, but of course I am, because for 15 years in a row, Rockwood has received the Association of School Business Officials International Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. ASBO Executive Director John Musso said Rockwood's participation in the COE program is a testament to the district's commitment to financial transparency. So, Paul, your team, everyone involved, congrats once again for your excellent leadership. All right, a few more. I'm going to cut these a little short in lieu of time. Just a reminder, kind of a cool thing that we've recently celebrated, the 50th anniversary for Selvage Middle School, and not too long before that, we celebrated the 20th anniversary for Wild Horse Elementary School. So our schools are aging, but I've learned that the older I get, the less impact something being 50 years old really seems to be. So, but congrats to those schools. LaSalle Springs 7th and 8th grade students performed skits in front of their peers during grade level assemblies April 12th. Why is this important? Because their goal was to raise awareness and encourage students to speak up against bullying, something we are having a huge impact in this school on, thanks a lot to the leadership of Dr. Terry Harris over there. Examples of different types of bullying students demonstrated include physical, social, verbal, and cyberbullying. It's a topic we have to keep discussing, we will keep discussing, and we are having an impact and will continue to have an impact. Let me mention that the artwork of Lafayette High Junior Audrey McLean has been chosen to promote the Rockwood District Art Show, which will take place this weekend, April 27th and 28th, from noon to 3:30 on the campus. No, is it at St. Louis Community College? Again? It's at Wild Horse. Yeah, Wildwood Middle School, I'm sorry. Yes, it is not at St. Louis Community College this year. It was last year. It is at St. Louis Community College.
It's at
I just had an art teacher tell me that it was at... All right, well, then you're wrong, too. And the art teacher's wrong, and I should... Communications is right.
Wildwood Community
It is-
College.
It is, yes, it's at the community college. All right. Well, I was told otherwise.
Just check the website in the morning.
Yes. And it's wonderful there. So go to the community college this weekend. And finally, students at Ridge Meadows Elementary got a chance to try their hands at cutting hair. Teacher Katie Roos, is that how we say her name? Is it Roos? I think so. Held a contest to allow students to win an opportunity to cut her hair during the morning announcement. Yes, she did. And Ridge Meadows met their goal of $7,500 for the American Heart Association, and as a result, Ms. Roos has a new haircut. So we're going to watch a little video of this happening.
All right, who's next?
Last month, Miss Royce and Mr. Beckner challenged our students to raise money
to donate to the American Heart Association.
I'm not used to doing it because I'm not meant to be a barber, but
We celebrated reaching our goal for our Kids Heart Challenge. Our kids raised $7,500. I told the kids for every $10 they raised, they would have their name put in a hat, and I would draw names for kids to give me a haircut. All right, no mohawks. He's been telling me all week he's giving me a mohawk. I'm donating my hair to an organization called Kids with Hair Loss, and they make wigs for free for children for hair loss for any reason, cancer, alopecia, any other disease where they would lose their hair. So it's a good cause. This is amazing, guys. We raised our goal, our money goal of $7,500, and we raised our registration number. So all for the Kids Heart Challenge. So thank you so much. I'll probably be saving some money on shampoo and conditioner now.
I was talking to Katie the other day, and she said, I said, that was really clever. Hey, you did. She had all that planned out, so they really couldn't mess up her hair, if you noticed. But it didn't take away from it one bit. The kids enjoyed it very much, and a great cause, and those are things that kids will remember the rest of their life. That is all I have for you tonight.
Very good, thank you. Any board members have any comments?
I want to acknowledge our PTOs. We had the opportunity, several of us had the opportunity to attend the PTO Leadership Conference that was held this Wednesday, and you know, they do an outstanding job for all of our schools. So we just want to say thank you to all the PTO presidents and officers and PTO members that support and do so much for our schools.
Anyone else?
I was going to thank Paul on behalf of some of us up here. I think all of us who were up here, except for a couple, made it out to the Eureka Elementary site today in the rain and mud, and we sludged our way in there, but it's looking amazing. So kudos to all those guys and gals who are working really hard out there. It's a big job, and Chris, your tour was fantastic. You are spot on. Your knowledge is way bigger than anything I can even come up with, so it's awesome. Looking good. And the hard hats are a hit.
All right, anyone else? All right. Next, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
Move.
I have motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Dr. Kinder has a cold.
I first want to thank Mr. Keating for his heartfelt speech about the children that don't have the money for food, and what the Masonic lodges are doing in Missouri. And you see it's up on the list again, so I'm going to go through it again because I think they deserve it. You did notice Kevin's voice. That was his natural voice. This is not my natural voice. I'm about an octave lower than I normally am, and I can't figure out if I'm sick or at the age of 71 I'm going through puberty again. I'm not sure which it is. And also I found out as a former Mason, I shouldn't say former, but I am a former Mason from Pacific Lodge. I never did know which lodge in Missouri was number one. Now I know it's the one in Creve Coeur. The Creve Coeur Lodge gave $11,500 to pay off the negative lunch balances, as Kevin stated. And this is at least the second year. I thought it was the third year, but it's only the second year, maybe? Second year. And then the Bonham Lodge in Baldwin raised $5,000 to pay off negative lunch balances. And this is not just unique to these two lodges. This is statewide that the Masons are doing this. That's a very worthy cause, and I congratulate them very much. Thank you guys very much. The next one, Werther PTO, has raised $22,252 for the donation for the purchase of a canopy over the south entrance at Werther. 79-foot by 8-foot aluminum canopy will be installed at our south entrance for the students during arrival and dismissal. Facilities Department has been involved in the process and reviewed the basic bids received on this project. Werther PTO is also donating $1,773 donations for beautification. Front entrance cleaned up and fresh topsoil added to assist new plant growth, shrubs and perennials to add color to the front entrance. And we keep a running total of the money donated to the Rockwood School District, and we'll have a tally at the end of the school year, and I think it's going to be larger this year than it's ever been, because it seems like the donations just keep flowing in. And as a board member, and I'm sure the rest of us feel this way, and we thank the patrons of the Rockwood School District for supporting the Rockwood School District. Thank you very much.
Well Well said. Anything else from the agenda? All right, so the motion is to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, now we're getting some good stuff too. So, Fine Arts Theater Program. The COPE Committee has brought this to us. So we have Coordinator Fine Arts Megan Meyer, Fine Arts Teacher Natasha Fisher, and Lafayette High School's Improv Troupe to give a presentation on the Fine Arts Theater Program.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you said, I am joined this evening by Natasha Fisher, who is our theater arts teacher at Lafayette High School. She's right over here. And by some of her students. And we are going to share some information with you about our theater program in Rockwood. Our program is co-curricular, meaning that at the middle school and high school level, we have a full range of courses in theater that are offered during the school day, and then we also have a full range of extracurricular activities outside of the school day, plays and musicals that our students can participate in, and at Lafayette an improv troupe as well. So our students are going to share with you a little bit about that. You all may recall that you approved a new curriculum for theater arts last school year. And just a couple of highlights from that you'll hear about this evening is we changed our sequence of courses in tech theater at the high school level to allow our students who knew that they wanted to be involved in theater but they didn't necessarily want to be on the stage to more quickly access that coursework, develop skills in lighting and sound and set construction. So you'll hear some about that this evening. And then we also have a new emphasis on new theatrical works, so improvisation and devised theatrical works. And you can hear a little bit about our new program called Little Thinkers Theater. So I'm going to turn things over to our students now, and they have a presentation and a special performance for you as well.
So I'm Juliana Sweet, and I'm going to be talking about Acting 1 quickly. So Acting 1 is just our basics. They give us like a little glimpse into acting for people who have never acted. So that's monologues and improv and just kind of the basics into what acting is.
My name is Abby Mercatani, and I'll be telling you guys about Acting 2. What's neat about Acting 2, I'm in it right now actually, it's a theater history class. So it's sort of like your other history classes where you're learning about all the different types of things throughout time and how they affect one another, but in the sense of theater. And not only are you learning about it, you're getting to perform it hands-on. So in the class so far, we've covered things from Shakespeare to Japanese theater, which you can see is right there on the board. And it's really neat to be able to take things that you've learned in other history classes and actually get to participate in them.
Hi, I'm Jake Dieter, and our new program, the Tech Theater, basically does everything behind scenes, so everything from lights to makeup, as you can see, to sound and just everything that you don't see necessarily on stage from acting-wise. And it covers anything you can possibly imagine, which is awesome.
Okay, studio directing. So the good thing about studio directing is you learn the differences between like a comedic show and a dramatic show, and there's a lot of input on what you want as like blocking or characterization. And on the picture, actually, the students were able to talk to an actual film director, and they have these amazing opportunities to really put their vision out there. And it's a very hands-on class that it's all about you and what you want to see performed, basically. And we usually every year we go to ITS, and it's a very nice experience because you actually have professionals talking to you and teaching you new things about theater. And it can be from the technical aspect to the performing aspect, and it's a very nice experience. And the Chicago trip, it's focused on our undefined improv team, and we had opportunities to talk to Second City and IO to learn from professionals how to better ourselves and learn tips and tricks to enhance our shows. back, and we're going to talk about our fall play and musical that we do every single year. The neat thing about Lafayette High School is that we have so many resources when it comes to our props and our set, even our students who perform in the orchestra, on stage, behind the stage, and obviously awesome directing. Another cool thing is that we do shows from comedies to serious shows. We did a show called Peter and the Starcatcher, which is based on the book, and we actually had the author come in and talk to us about the story and just tell us some tips and things that he wanted to see in the show. And we also did a show last year called Falling, and it was about autism, and we got to go into the special education classrooms and interact with those students and learn more about autism, so that we were able to put on this show in respect to that and raise awareness for it. But we also put on comedies and things like that. This year we did a show called Out of the Frying Pan, and that was a blast, and we did Legally Blonde, which was a huge hit. So, yeah.
You had a cameo participant in
Yes,
Legally
we
Blonde,
had
didn't
Dr.
you?
Calcaterra, our head principal, in the show, and it was a blast. She still comes up to me today and says, well, I'm an actress now, and I'm like, oh, yes, you are. You always have been, but you got your shot, so. That's awesome.
Undefined is our improv group. We're the only school in the Rockwood School District that has an improv group. We're going to play a game for you guys later to show you more extensively what that is that we do. But I would say that we're a very tight-knit group, and we're a very industrious group. This picture up here is a couple of our group members that competed at the state level, and they won a superior rating. I can say from my own personal experience that it's been a very rewarding experience to be involved in this group, and I've gotten similar feedback from the community that we've been involved with. It's really fun to just make people laugh and do what we do in this group.
So Little Thinkers Theater is an awesome opportunity for both middle school and high school students, but also for elementary students who are able to write stories. And then middle school and high school students come alongside them and help them develop these stories into stage productions. So everything from the specific lines to the blocking to the lighting to the costumes and everything. And it's awesome to watch them see their production come to life. So. Are there any questions or anything that you guys have to kind of finish it out before we perform?
I feel like we should get your autograph before you guys become famous.
Oh.
What year are all of you? Okay, and what are your plans next year? Awesome.
Great.
You guys did a great job at the assembly, by the way.
You did.
What about the other four? What are your plans? Besides graduating? Nothing after that?
I just want.
After that, I hope to attend Purdue Mechanical.
There you go.
Wow.
I just want to congratulate you on your focus on the technical aspect too, because as a former thespian, there's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes that permits the actors to do what they do. So I'm glad that you're focusing on that also.
What are the plans for the rest of you?
I would say I'm not exactly sure career-wise what I want to do, but like them, I considered just stopping theater as I go to college, but as I continue in my high school career, I just don't know if I'll be able to do that. So it'll be probably something involving theater eventually. Maybe not as a career, but just as an activity.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do. You can ask my mom. She's been asking for a while.
Great answer.
I like theater. I'd probably do it after high school, but not a major. I don't know.
And it appears as if you've had a great role model in your teacher. Is that correct? A Rockwood grad, isn't she? You were? I did not know that. Congratulations.
What year did you graduate from Marquette, if I can ask?
Don't ask those questions.
You're not supposed to ask them?
2001.
Very good. Anything else before you introduction.
Awesome. Great job.
So we have a special game for you guys today. It's what we like to call Hitchhiker. And we'll have 4 characters come up with a driver. And those 4 characters, we hope to get characteristics from you guys, suggestions that they can inhibit. And then one of our players, who's the driver, is going to exit. And then when they come back in, they're going to go character from character, entering and then exiting in the same order, so that the host has no idea, while they also have to take on the characteristic of that character that just entered. And at the end, we'll have that driver guess what all their characteristics are. So can we have our driver exit? Bye, Abby. Okay, I hope she's out of earshot. Can we have a characteristic for Juliana? Like, has to sneeze all the time, allergic to cars.
Barks like a dog.
On a sugar
Bark?
high. Sugar high.
Ooh, you're on a sugar high.
Oh, sugar.
Can we have a characteristic for our friend Ethan? Germaphobe. Great characteristic. And can we have a characteristic for Olivia?
Distracted.
Just distracted. You're just continuously distracted. So let's review real quick.
Germaphobe.
Sugar high.
Okay, and let's get Abby back in here. She may have gotten lost.
Yeah.
And hi, Abby. Welcome back. And scene.
It's a nice looking bush we got here. My gosh. Yo, is this, ooh, sunlight. Who's leaving a poor sunlight? I don't know, but, I think old Jeff's gonna have to take advantage here. All right. And they left the keys. My gosh, this is too easy. All right, here we go. My car. I don't know where these germs are coming from.
Thanks for the ride, but you know what else is catching a ride is all the
You're gonna get in so much trouble, don't we? I don't want to alarm you, but both of our moms are standing at the corner there. They'll turn in. I'm only 6. I'm not about to drive. I'm a duck and roll. Okay, you just keep going out. Oh, I think I wasn't looking. You know what? Just make up something, dude. I will. Like, you know, we were heading to preschool. Okay. Oh, wow. What an interesting experience I just endured.
and scene. Okay. Can you guess our characteristics for us? What was Juliana?
Was she a child who stole candy? Which
which was on a,
And I was just crazy.
you know, just crazy for that sugar. There we go. Thank you. What was Olivia?
A dog? Or someone who was very distracted?
Yes. And then finally, what was Ethan?
A German.
Yep. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
That was fantastic. You guys are funny. Yeah.
Right.
Hate to follow that act. I know.
Oh, I'm gonna bring-
And next.
See
Bring
how
them
the
to every board meeting.
and who's next to come up?
Right on to assessments. Woo! Motion to approve the 2019-20 testing calendar and assessment plan as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. And here we have Glenn Hancock.
And scene.
Thank you, and this is the one thing that can top that. Probably not, right?
Maybe if you use different voices.
Yes. Glenn
Maybe
could
just
do
I
that.
do have a dated deli stick.
Glenn
It
is-
would have been appropriate
he's
for
quite
tonight.
the entertainer
Been-
when he wants to be. Yeah.
been really good. Well, as you stated, tonight going to share our assessment plan. And before we get too far, you know, through all of our work with the way forward, our next strategic plan, everything we heard from our community, our students, our staff, more opportunities, what you just saw, more authentic opportunities for our students to engage, share what they're working on, share what they've learned, to really provide an opportunity to demonstrate those skills in a more authentic audience environment. So part of our assessment plan deals with that. We want to continue that, and we want to do that as well. So tonight we'll be sharing a little bit more of the formal assessments that will go along with that, but we also don't subtract from all the classroom and other assessments and opportunities we want to provide for our students as well. Tonight we annually update you just on the scope of the assessments at each grade level coming for the next school year, as well as recommendations that were made by a committee of our testing assessment advisory team. It's made up of teachers, counselors, administrators, principals, and so we'll go through that and share that this evening with you. To begin with, we mentioned our assessment plan is balanced. When we talk about that, we like to share that there's a lot of layers that make up our assessment plan, and each layer works together to help us learn more about our programs we offer, as well as about helping us learn about our students and the journey they're taking with their learning. As part of the balanced assessment plan, there's always that state testing portion that deals with a large kind of accountability, followed up with we have a district set of assessments we offer. So that way we can provide interim assessments to maintain opportunities to interact with students and see where they're at multiple times a year, but these are district assessments that we offer. And then our communities of teachers, whether it's a PLC, whether it's a group of teachers, will often offer common assessments together, and then there's always those classroom assessments that are available on a daily basis. So the realm of these assessments work together. The information we share back and forth from the state level down to the classroom and vice versa to help impact instruction inside of there. So when we talk about balanced assessment, we're referring to the combination of those assessments that are available there. When we look at the K through 5 scope of assessments, we obviously have our state testing that is, again, the furthest away from the students. So even Desi will share that this is largely for accountability purposes. It doesn't really impact the day-to-day instruction as much as just the accountability for state testing. In grades 3 through 5, we have English language arts and math, and then in grades 5, we have science. The other state assessment that we're responsible for around this grade level is our English language learner screener and access assessment. These help us learn more about the acquisition of the English language for our English language learners. The district set of assessments we offer assessments that are blended around ability assessments. These help us monitor and identify students for programs such as our Creative Center for Learning. And our interim assessments that we give for reading and math help us identify students that might need a particular intervention. And this year we incorporated to comply with a DESE mandate with screening for dyslexia. We implemented FastBridge as well as, in addition to, I should say, our benchmark assessment series and STAR testing to really give a really rounded assessment plan for screening for reading. And so we've been able to offer interventions for all students that qualified for reading intervention this year. So we've been offering multiple different interventions to meet the needs of each individual student. We also offer character assessments, such as we have a social emotional learning survey that we offer in grades 3 through 5. And as I mentioned, we offer common assessments, again, at the professional learning community level. So again, a group of teachers will give summative assessments and formative assessments, so that way they can share strategies and practices back and forth with each other. And then our daily assessments that happen in the classroom all the time. And again, we're always looking for ways that we can help our teachers with formative assessments, those authentic opportunities, something like you just saw. It's ongoing. We want our students to be more in control of the assessment as well, so involving students as part of the assessments, and again, a balance all the way through involving those. Rick Stiggins, very famous assessment author, shares that our assessment results, it should mean more to the students than it really does the adults a lot of times. And right now, sometimes that's backwards. A lot of times we use the assessment results more than we involve the students in there. So to involve the students more is, again, an ongoing part of our plan. At the grades 6 through 8 level, again, we still have the state accountability assessments in there. The one addition now are end-of-course exams for students taking algebra or geometry and math, end-of-course high school exams equivalent there. The other part, I guess, to share at this point also is that there's a Missouri Assessment Partnership group that is meeting. There's a group of districts in Missouri that are working to help kind of flip that. So right now the state accountability system is about accountability testing. How do we flip it so that the state assessments are more about teaching and learning, and then the accountability part is secondary? So how do we kind of make that transition? So there's a group of districts that are working together to see how can we work with the state to make that transition happen, so it's not so accountability heavy, and again, getting back to the student, that it's more meaningful to the student and why they're participating in these assessments. Very similar at the middle school level. We also have STAR testing and for math and English language arts for reading, and also character and climate with the Missouri Student Survey. And very similar, again, all of our students get an opportunity to participate in their classroom assessments on a daily basis. Again, just from the graphic, you can see that that's the part that means the most. It's the daily interaction with students. The stuff on the right, as we move further to the right, that's the stuff that's not as directly aligned, but students still need to be aware and provided a purpose on why they're participating in the assessments and what the results can mean to them as well. And then lastly, our 9 through 12 plan, again, involves a state testing. Those are in form of end-of-course assessments, so instead of testing at every grade level, these are at the end of a particular course our students will participate in. The state had been participating in a statewide ACT. They stopped that about 2 years ago. Every year they mention they might bring it back again, but it depends on their budget. Haven't heard word this year, but as Rockwood, we always include that as part of our college and career readiness plan as well. So part of our college and career readiness assessments Rockwood offers are the pre-ACT, a practice ACT, the full ACT, and then also AP exam. So Rockwood does provide an opportunity for all juniors to participate in the ACT. One of the recommendations that the committee did suggest this year was, usually we have two options, an early spring and a late spring option. The late spring option this year was, for instance, April 2nd. That's what we participated in. Moving forward, our committee recommended having the ACT earlier. There's a February date we can offer the ACT. They recommended that, so that way there's more time to get the assessment results back, meet with the students, and utilize those assessment results. That way students had time to meet with counselors, college and career planning during the school year before they leave for the summer, because right now our results usually don't get back into the hands of students until mid-May, maybe even June some years. And again, very similar, how do we continue to provide more authentic opportunities for students to engage in assessment? Those happen again at the professional learning community level and also daily in our classroom instruction in there. Overall, our recommendations from the committee were to continue to monitor our reading screening process. So again, we're using the BAS, the STAR, and FastBridge to help ensure that we're providing the correct accommodations for students. So keep monitoring our entrance and exit criteria for those programs. Offer that ACT earlier in the year so that we can meet with students and provide information on their results and what they can do as next steps utilizing those results. And then again, to continue to align our social emotional learning surveys and assessments with our desired social emotional learning outcomes in there. Our next step we're going to be working with is continue to monitor changes in the state assessment plan. Luckily, this is the second year in a row that we've had the same assessment. I'm assuming this can continue to move that way, but we will continue to monitor the state assessment plan and any changes that happen there and align our work with that as well. Continue to provide professional learning that's focused on sharing assessment results and actually using the data we receive from those to make some decisions, and again, incorporating that with students, helping the students make sure they're aware of the assessment results and where they're at, and kind of what are next steps. Collaborate with those multiple departments to continue working our social emotional learning measures, and then communicating our plan with all stakeholders. And then just in summary, in terms of delivery methods, everything continues to be mostly online. There's a few assessments that are paper pencil still. The assessed content areas remained unchanged. Our testing time, we hadn't increased any testing. Unfortunately, didn't also have a decrease technically named testing from last year. And again, overall cost will maintain about the same. So again, any questions around our assessment plan?
I want to make a couple comments with why they formulate their questions. First, I have so much respect for Glenn. Every time I'm in the presence of Glenn, I learn something new, and tonight I've learned that there is such a thing as a famous assessment author. That was classic. Glenn mentioned with this a couple things about the state testing I think is worth pointing out. We've had the same test 2 years in a row, but it's hard to have that comment or that discussion without saying, yet the state has changed the cut scores on the test this year, so it makes significant difference, which we know that a lot of our parents noticed that their kids' scores were quite a bit different from one year to another. So same test, but different cut scores, and we're being told that that will stay consistent. But I love the way Glenn depicts that, showing that the farthest thing away from the students and their learning is things like standardized tests, and you all know how I feel about those things. But when we're told, even by the State Department, that, you know, it's just a snapshot test, doesn't really affect what we do in the classroom. You spent the whole day or the whole morning at Rockwood South Middle School, and I can't tell you how many classes I were in where, guess what they were doing? They weren't map testing. A lot of them were, but the ones I was in weren't. They were prepping on how to take the map test and how to use the tools. And that's valuable education time that has to be dedicated to give this snapshot test that does nothing for the learning that our kids need to be engaged in. I'll be quiet, but I just wanted to offer that. But great way to depict it, Glenn. Good job. You always do a great job for us.
A couple questions. How long has Rockwood used the STAR test?
This is the 5th year. We're in the
That's
5th
what
year.
I was thinking. And has it become more reliable since it first started? I feel like when we first started using it, and maybe this is still the kind of the thinking, is the teachers are kind of like, don't give much weight into this because the results of that, carrying off of what they've done before, are kind of hard to interpret. Is it still kind of thought of that way, or has that become more of a useful tool?
It's becoming a more useful tool. We're really, the great thing right now is we're balancing, the adjustment period happened where we're balancing what they're doing with the BAS, which is an assessment where the teacher sits next to the student, listens to them read, right? The STAR is a computer adaptive assessment. FastBridge has computer adaptive components, and it has components where the teacher will listen to a student read as well and make certain markings on whatever assessment they're pertaining to. And so the great thing right now is we're using those three things in combination, and it's helping us learn a little bit more with the balance of those three assessments. So over time, it's getting more reliable. That is one that we kind of mentioned, kind of our next steps is reviewing that reading screening process and our assessment tools that we have there.
Other questions about the EOCs. Are those, I know sometimes those are always a portion of their grade at the end. Is that correct?
Has been in the past. The past 2 years, though, we haven't been able. Last year in particular, we did not get results back until, what was it, December. And so we weren't able to use those as part of the grade. Typically, they had a 5-day turnaround and could give us the results back so we could use as part of the grade. Last year, they weren't able to. This year, they weren't able to give us any guarantee at the beginning of the year when we were kind of setting up the grade books. So we made the decision not to include it this year, just not knowing when we'll get the assessment results back in there.
Is that kind of overall, or is that determined by building sometimes, or is that a district?
This decision was a district decision made on that.
Yeah.
Because, again, if we don't have the grades back in time, we won't be able to use them in there. Last year, again, not knowing that we wouldn't have the results back in time, the 4% was there, and then trying to reverse that calculation when students' grades are due is is a difficult one to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And do we know how we will have to report the dyslexia information on core data yet?
We do. They ask for the status of each student, if they were screened, and if they showed signs of concern or not signs of concern.
We don't measure any kind of progress or interventions.
At this time, they're not asking for that. They're strictly asking for if students were screened and what was really the result.
If I'm wrong, but on the STAR, there is a lot of data that can be pulled from the various reports, and it's how deep you dig into those reports in terms of directing you. Where do you go to your next step?
Exactly, and it's again using this in combination with the
Right.
other information we have from BAS and combining with their curriculum. There is a lot of information in there, and then that's the other part that we keep talking a lot about is how do we make this meaningful to the student as well, that it's not just they have to sit and take the STAR test, but what does it give them? What can they learn about their abilities and where they want to go to next? Because goal setting is a big part of really, their learning progression as well.
Glenn, I have 3 quick ones. On the first slide for elementary, one of the surveys or something was Gallup. What is that testing? How much they're watching television, who they're going to vote for, or what?
No, the Gallup was an assessment that was assessing hope engagement at that level. And we were only given it at the 5th grade level at the time, and I believe that as of right now, we might end up removing that assessment because they started charging for that assessment.
Okay. When you mentioned the years given, you had in parentheses 6 through 8. I'm assuming that it's 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. It's not the same test, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Is the test harder, or it's different parts? How's that? Explain that a little bit.
Certainly. Which assessment do you remember?
One I was looking at was math, but it's also ELA and third one in there.
So good question. With STAR, we give STAR for math and ELA in grades 6 through 8, and it's a computer adaptive test. So after each question, if it's a correct answer, it ratchets it up a little bit. If it's an incorrect answer, it ratchets it down until they find the appropriate level with the assessment.
Not the map. The map is also in 6 through 8, isn't it?
Map is also 6 through 8 as well, correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And it's a different test. And if they took it in 6th grade and they did well, they should do well in the 7th grade one, or not necessarily, or what? How's?
Most likely. It's typically built to a continuum or a scale. So
7th grade teachers are teaching different concepts or additional concepts from the 6th grader and so forth.
Correct.
Okay, and you mentioned 3 tests for reading in elementary and recognized 2 of them. Why all 3?
The FastBridge is the newer one we just implemented this year, and it was mainly to comply with DESE put in a new mandate for screening for dyslexia, and there are components of STAR that is not completely screened with. There are components of STAR that weren't completely meeting our needs for the screening, so we're using FastBridge to meet the needs of those missing components.
What reading programs are we using in the elementary school?
We're using a couple different ones. We have our reading initiative, our RI program, where we have reading specialists that work with students, and inside that program, there's different interventions that are being used. The one that I know that I'm most familiar with is Orton Gillingham. I know Dr. Stephanie Steffen, Dr. Shelley Willett, they do a fabulous job of searching for those interventions and then providing training for our reading specialists and also classroom teachers.
We seeing good results on all these interventions? Because if a student is low in 3rd grade, 1 or 2 grades behind, theory says they never catch up, or they have really struggled to catch up.
And that's what, continuing back, that's one of our next steps is to continue to monitor and evaluate that program.
Yeah.
This is the first year that we've implemented a few different interventions, such as the Orton Gillingham program, and so we're going to be monitoring and evaluating that in terms of the entrance criteria and then also a number that are exiting the program. We have seen a number exit the RI program over the years, and it's been successful, and so we'll continue to monitor that to make sure that we have the right qualifications put in place, and that we're also providing the right interventions that meet their needs.
What percentage of our students are reading below grade level?
Roughly about, it depends on the grade level, but it could fluctuate anywhere between, I would say 18% and 25%.
I read a recent public school in this area, 60% of their kids are reading 2 grade levels below, and they just can't catch up. So hopefully
difficult.
we can take care of our 18 to 25%.
And I also should share that Dr. Natalie Fallard is also doing a great job. There's a lot of interventions that are being put in place at the middle school as well for reading. So there's a lot of programs, a lot of support, and a lot of good work being done by our leaders and also our teachers in the classroom.
One last question. Do you have contact with the legislators to tell them they're testing us too much, or is that a superintendent situation?
A little bit of both. I will share, I'm on an advisory group for that Missouri Assessment Partnership I talked about. So that partnership is looking at a way to, again, restructure that MAP assessment, our state accountability. So again, it does help more with the teaching and learning to try and move it closer to the student than how far away it is currently. And so through that group is working with the commissioner and also the legislation.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to comment that the challenge with the Missouri assessment program, the alternative we're trying to prepare, it's kind of, I don't know how else to put it, but it's been kind of a rogue effort of superintendents and educators around the state versus other states where the State Department has initiated the idea of change and brought people into the conversation. Since Margie Van Dieven came back to her post, there has been more openness and more willingness to talk, but I think we still have a long way to go. And as far as staying involved with legislators, I mean, that's just the more the merrier. I mean, that's why I send you all the information I do. And along those lines, Glenn made the comment, when we're talking about the teaching of reading and the assessments for reading and screeners for dyslexia, while mandated by the state, keep in mind that that's stuff that's coming through legislation. You have legislators that are passing statutes that then require DESE to act, and there's a lot of influences going, and it's continuing. I could be wrong, and actually I kind of hope I am wrong, but I think the reporting, the core data reporting is going to change. I think that there will continue. There's legislation not necessarily about the reporting, but about trying to mandate and dictate the teaching of reading to our reading specialists and our teachers. I think that's going to come back next year and the year after, and I think it's going to continue to be shaped and molded by legislation.
Thank you for sharing.
Great job.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Blues.
Laura.
Why we're all wearing blue.
Laura Lee.
How what?
I know everybody wants to get out here except for me for the hockey game. I can't watch it. I have to watch it afterwards. But I've been noticing people in the audience that I don't recognize. I know Beth is sitting next to two young ladies. Are these by any chance Kims of yours? Would you introduce them, please?
So my father in Jerseyville, Illinois, served as a school board member. So when my mother, this is Marilyn Rogers, found out that I was going to be here tonight in front of the school board, she wanted to come. My father passed away this past year, and so she wanted to come as kind of a representative. And she lives in Jerseyville, which is an hour and 20 minutes away. So her sister, my Aunt Linda, rode with her so that they could be here tonight and kind of be a part of this with me and as a part of, my journey here at Rockwood. So thank you, Dr. Kinder.
And we had three other students that just walked out. They must have known I was going to introduce them or have them. We have at least two others, I think.
So my name is Kimberly Jones, and this is Alex Petty. And those three other girls over there are in my, what's the class called?
Foundations of Education in a Diverse Society.
Yes, and we attend St. Louis Community College up in Wildwood. He goes to Merrimack for the class, but our professor, David Shield, wanted us to come in and just observe a school board meeting to see how they're going to be, because we plan on being teachers when we're older.
Very good.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Kinder. That was good.
I have one more.
Oh.
I don't recognize the pressed young lady. What is your name, and what are you connected with?
She's new.
So I'm Caitlin Mary Skaggs. Ooh, this is loud. I'm with the Eureka Leader. So we're a hyper-local newspaper in Eureka, bi-weekly, and we only cover the 5 Rockwood schools in Eureka. So we dip into LaSalle Springs and Wildwood a little bit because a lot of Eureka kids go out there, but I typically only cover the 5 schools out here.
Good, welcome. Thank you.
Tony Kraus was the other Eureka leader reporter.
I think I know everybody else.
Very good. Well,
I'm
as long as
done.
you're comfortable. Good.
I'm done.
It's Dr. Kinder night here at the board meeting, everyone.
And I wasn't going to talk tonight either.
All right, where are we? Okay, next. Multi-tier systems of support update. Assistant Superintendent Supervision of Schools, Dr. Lisa Counts. Executive
Did
Director
we
Student
vote on that
Services,
assessment plan?
Oh, sure. I'm halfway through reading everyone's
Sorry.
name. Motion to approve the 2019-20 testing calendar and assessment plan as presented.
So move.
We have a motion and a second, so now everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mrs.
Janet.
Sadowski. All right, so we already have Lisa Counts. We have Executive Director Student Services, Dr. Terry Harris. We have Executive Director Early Childhood, Dr. Jane Brown. And Director of Research Evaluation Assessment, Glenn Hancock. They're going to present an update on the multi-tier systems of support.
I just wanted to bring some friends. I was so nervous that I thought I needed backup, so we got
Perfect.
your
We're
back.
gonna do
But
another-
Dr. Knos
Are you
wants
going
to
to
do
hold
improv.
hands and
Yes.
sing?
Right, we're all, yeah, we do not have any
Improv?
improv, though, no.
No improv.
No improv, sorry.
I just wanted to say before they start, I asked them to consider this, and of course Lynn's not here tonight, but Lynn and I often talk individually about our efforts to look at data that's disproportionate in our district when it comes to things like suspensions of not only our different subgroups and differences in those suspensions and our efforts and so on and so forth. And I think there's more to come with this as we go on because we're looking to try to impact these things in a very positive way. So this is kind of I think they very appropriately came to me then and said, we really want to report on our multi-tier system and what that looks like and how it gets at that. So this is a little more overarching, but it allows for a foundation for future conversation.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Knost. So, as I said, I brought some colleagues who have been instrumental in the work we're doing, but I do not want to forget to mention a few others that, Dr. Kinder, you know them. So, we have Jamie Smith and Carmen Harris here and Shelley Willott. We all are our hands are in this at different levels, which is fantastic because, as you know, this team is top-notch. So, multi-tier systems of support. For ease of me saying that throughout this report, we'll call it MTSS. And you guys have probably heard of that a bit. We've really been talking about it a lot the last couple of years as just an extension, the overarching work that we're doing to get at those academic and social, emotional, behavioral supports and interventions for kids. So it's the whole umbrella. So tonight we're just going to be focusing on that social, emotional, behavioral aspect. But of course we know that the academic pieces are there as well. So that's kind of where our focus is. So tonight I just wanted to kind of start by laying the foundation, the things that we're working on, the things that our data is showing us, that then is guiding our work. And then as Dr. Knost said, this is just kind of a first brush that we're looking forward to bringing more updates as we continue this work. And of course, it's directly tied into our way forward strategic planning work. So there will be, plenty of opportunities for us to share the work and the connection there. So with that, there's our beautiful umbrella, which MTSS really is just that. It's all of those things that we do for those interventions. It's the social emotional side, it's the behavioral side, it's also the academic side. So you see some acronyms in there. We love a good acronym here in education. So MTSS can pertain to all those things that we do to support students. PBIS is an example that's up there, and those are some of our universal strategies in teaching kids appropriate behaviors and recognizing when they're doing what they should be doing and being good citizens and having good character. So that's one component of it. And there's probably more raindrops or bubbles that could fall under here, but these are some of the big ones. That social emotional learning component is another aspect. Response to intervention, you guys are familiar with that, so that's where we're really looking at those academic interventions. To your point, Keith, what are we doing for those students that maybe are reading behind grade level or behind grade level in another content area? So how are we helping those students? And then restorative discipline is another one of those big bubbles that we are really incorporating into our social emotional behavioral learning for our students. So just like academics, our behavioral strategies need to be differentiated, and that includes all kinds of things, our trauma-informed practices, our universal behavior expectations. So this is kind of the guiding umbrella to help us make sure that we're kind of covering all those bases depending on the varying needs of our student population. So like I said, tonight we're going to just start focusing on that social emotional behavioral side, and more updates will be coming forward on those other legs of MTSS as well. So next I'm going to ask Terry to talk a little bit about some of our current work and the strategies that we're starting to focus on more in depth throughout the district.
Thank you. So if we were to show this, this framework, in education, most of us can talk about PBIS, SEL, RTI, and restorative discipline. But for most families, their first question would probably be, what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we make these things practical? And so this is our framework, which is our theory, and what we have here is actually how we are taking this theory and making it more practical in our schools. I knew this was going to happen, playing with it. All right, so we have anti-bullying ambassadors, which Dr. Knos talked a lot about, and you guys have seen our students train our younger students. We also, just a quick little highlight, we have an opportunity on May 9th to allow our anti-bullying ambassadors to train the chief financial officers around the St. Louis County. So Paul is going to allow and create space so you guys will receive information, and it'll be great to support our students. I'm not going to talk about all these things. I just really want to highlight some of the efforts that we're doing. So Jamie Smith and Jane Brown are doing a lot of work around universal behavior supports, which is basically how do we operate and how do we do business in our schools, right? We want to make sure that kids are understanding the rules and the behavior so that no kid can say, I'm not really aware. Unfortunately, we had some tragic events over the last couple of years, most recently at Rockwood Summit. And so from that work, working with Dr. Knos, and Dr. Counts, we wanted to make sure that all of our schools had trauma-informed / suicide awareness training. So all 4 of our high schools are going through partnering with Alive and Well St. Louis to really look at how kids handle traumatic experiences and what supports we need to put in place to make sure that students are doing well. All of our middle schools and all of our high schools have practiced or are involved in restorative practices. I said this last time when I presented. I think there's a negative connotation sometimes with restorative practices because individuals think that that's the absence of discipline, and it's not. So it's not the absence of discipline. Restorative practices is really about when we discipline a student, what happens when that kid comes back? How do we ensure that that student continue to feel as though they're part of the school community? And then just really quickly, Glenn is going to talk about some data, and obviously you guys are going to have questions about this data, but I want to highlight that Rockwood School District has a partnership with Special School District and Parkway and Melville, where we get together to talk about strategies and different things that we need to put in place to ensure that we don't have this disproportionate gap that we see currently. So, and this partnership was in place when Lynn was working with SSD. So we've been on this journey for a while. This is tough work. Some of the things that we see and why these things are happening are somewhat beyond us, but we know that we have to tackle those things. So we come together as a region to talk about how do we close this gap, and it's just part of the partnership and work that we have. So Glenn is going to talk a little bit more about the data.
Actually, I'm going to start. So I wanted to bring this slide forward. We're talking
discipline is just one tiny glimpse of this entire topic, right? We want kids to be successful and supported socially, emotionally, behaviorally, academically. So, you know, we put a snapshot of discipline referrals here, ISS and OSS outcomes, just to say that we do see a decline overall in our incidents of ISS and OSS, which of course we're happy about, and we think that's worth celebrating. But, you know, as Terry said, we also know there's still some work to do. You know, when we dig in deeper in this data, and like I said, we'll have some future opportunities to do that. For the sake of time, we tried to hit the highlights tonight. But, you know, when we dig into this data, you know, we are still seeing some gaps there. We are still seeing that certain subgroups rates are not decreasing at the same rate as the overall population. So, you know, we do need to pay attention to that. That's the important work, that all of our kids need to have the same level of success, and all students need to receive the same level of interventions that are necessary for them as an individual. So we know that that's really the work. That's the important work here, is not just overall discipline referral reduction, but all students are being reduced at the same rate. And right now we still know that there's a gap there, and there's some work to be done in those areas. So, but you know, we're excited about this too. That doesn't mean we stop here, but this truly, I think, is attributed to those prior structures and strategies that Terry was mentioning. You know, if you just look at that list, and that's probably just, you know, us as a team brainstorming, and, you know, these were the top 10 that popped into our mind. You know, this touches every section, excuse me, of our school community. So a lot of people are really prioritizing this work and feel very committed to this. So we think that, of course, has been a direct correlation to we're reducing discipline referrals, which means kids are in our classrooms more often, and we're meeting kids' needs in different ways besides just writing a discipline referral and, you know, sending them to the office. So we're excited about this initial data, but we know that there's still more work to do. And then Glenn's going to talk about some data tools we're using and how that's helping us drill down into that data and start to be more targeted about looking at how our discipline is trending across our district.
So what you see here, it's a quick dashboard that we provide our schools with some sample data here of what we provide our schools, so we can help monitor and be more proactive with some of the discipline incidences that are occurring. On this particular snapshot, it lets our schools see the total number of referrals that are occurring by the number of distinct students. So again, a student might have more than one referral, and so this gives an opportunity for our schools to monitor that, to again learn more about where the discipline is happening. We monitor by grade level, what the result is in ISS or OSS, and then also provide a quick bird's eye view of the number of referrals by month, so they can kind of see trends or patterns that are happening over the past 3 years by month with their discipline referrals in this case. Again, the goal is to really learn more about our discipline and how we can be more proactive in measures and things we can do in our school. Another quick snapshot we share is by quarter, so we want to learn just our progress, so things we're putting in place. Are we seeing things? Also, do we see trends that are happening? Do we see particular incidents happen more in a particular quarter of the year? The bottom graph just quickly shows referrals by day of the week. So each of our schools might have a different structure. They might have maybe more half days happen on a particular day, or they do a particular event on a day. So this lets them get a quick view of where infractions might happen a little bit more. We also provide opportunities for them to see the number of infractions by type, location, and again, just the time and the amount of data that we can share in here. We do monitor those things as well.
Oh, sorry. As long as this is up, any idea why we think Thursday is a higher referral day than Friday? And she just said,
I'm surprised to see a decline between April and May. I would have expected the opposite, as kids are winding down based on my own stories that I'm hearing. I'm like, that's the opposite of what I would have guessed.
So the first regarding the days of the week, it's different by school when they look at it. Again, because each school might have a different schedule or structure, so you see a little bit of variance there. In terms of the month there, you know, there's a lot of different theories you can put into play there. That, you know, hey, you know, we want to maybe be better towards the end of May because we know we got a school and we don't want to, you know, There's
The
testing
carrot.
in April.
The
That's
carrot.
A lot of
there.
a lot of
Many
carrots
different
in May.
theories.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of special events,
Right.
and you know, and I think there's just a different sense of excitement. It was interesting. I was having a casual conversation with a high school teacher, and we ran into each other out in the community, and it was just this. It was right after the Easter. Well, I know it's not Easter break, but when we were just off school the last couple of days, and you know, he was expressing how it was so fantastic in these couple of days off, and we will be interested to see if our data looks a little different this year, because this is the first time in a while that we've had just a little break in April, and you know, it's a long stretch, and I know the rest of the working world is going, oh, boo-hoo, but you know, teachers get tired, kids get tired, I think parents get tired, you know, so I think people just kind of, you know, things loosen up a little bit, and so I'll be interested to see if a little bit of a break in there, if that changes anything.
And that's one of the great things about having this dashboard that we can look at, is we can ask those questions, and we can learn a little bit about our school and what's going on, and to help kind of uncover what might be in some of those situations.
And we review this monthly at our principals meetings. We'll just take turns, and sometimes principals will want to bring up a particular segment, and these are just tiny snapshots. I mean, you can drill down through all of this. There's so much information here. So this has really helped us be very targeted and have really rich conversations as leaders and compare against each other. And it's, initially I was a little bit apprehensive about, well, you know, I didn't want to draw too much attention, or you're doing something wrong, but you know, they're all very professional people, and it's really enriched our conversation for that exact example. Like, you know, maybe our school, we have so many more referrals on Wednesday than Thursday. What's that about? You know, or, and especially when we drill down and we look at by infraction, and we start having some really good conversations, like what does insubordination mean, or what does disrespect mean? And we start comparing against the data as a whole and against middle schools as a whole and high schools as a whole. We're really able to it's like checks and balances for us to be able to share best practices. And again, when we talk about disproportionality, and we can look at student demographic, whether it's male, female, grade level, African American, student with a disability, you know, all those subgroups that we can look at, we can do all of that through this, and we can really start targeting where we're missing some of those pieces, and we have to put some more interventions in place so those students aren't more likely to be referred through discipline.
Does that go back to the universal behavior supports then? So that we are being somewhat consistent across the district in terminology of discipline?
Yes, that's a great question. So through our Rockwood Learning Council, there's actually a secondary action team, not task force, that sounds negative, action group that's working specifically on that universal language. We've learned a lot in that process just from middle school to high school, that our universals aren't necessarily aligned.
Necessarily universal.
Right, they're not. And so what students are doing that they think is middle school behavior, and they get to high school and it's totally different, or vice versa. And so we need to be better aligned in that. So we know that's work.
The action plans work.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you go back one slide,
Sure.
Retta? One more.
Oh, which way? This way?
No, the other. Don't go back the other one. Then go back one more. One more. That's a little deceiving, maybe. When you have 16, that's the year the school year ended, right? 2016, and 2017, 2018, 2019 would be this year, right?
Yeah, so this year isn't over. You're
yeah,
right.
that's
So that,
a little deceiving there.
Yeah.
Okay, go on to the next one.
Okay.
I'm curious. I see what those numbers add up to, 262 and 128. Are you telling me that the district has only had...
This is a sample of a school. So one school.
Okay, that's one school. I was going to say. Wish I had been in that district when... Okay, then that's all I have on that.
Okay, sorry. So next we just wanted to talk about, you know, our strategic plan. In fact, you guys are going to get the grand rollout here in just a few short weeks. In June, we're ready to unveil the way forward. We're really excited about it. We've got a community event coming up in May. So everything that we're doing with this topic and working on the multiple tiered support system is directly connected to our strategic plan. And so I think that's important too, that we're transparent with our community, we're transparent with you as the board, that we do have goals and we do have some work to do here. So while, yeah, we aren't finished with the year yet, and we might see that go back up a little bit, we do feel like the steps we've already started upon, we're getting some gains. And I think that the biggest part of that is that mindset and that awareness level of our teachers, of our administrators, of our community members, that we do have to consider interventions across the gamut. It's not just academic intervention. So I put this here simply for you to have it. I'm not going to go through it because there's a ton of words there, but I just wanted you to have a snapshot of some of the work that's lined up as we move forward through the way forward, that is specifically linked to this topic of equity access for all students. And so these are some things you're going to be learning a little bit more about when we present to you in June. But there are two goal areas specifically that touch this work, and these are just some of the action steps that we know need to be put in place for us to continue to measure, to hold us accountable, to make sure that we are looking at that data very critically across the board for all students, not just that big number, but really drilling down into all those subgroups as well. So I'm going to let Jane wrap up with a great little story for us.
I do have a story, and hopefully this will kind of bring it all full circle. I think that the work that we're talking about, we have different variations of people up here in their roles, because this is not just one person's idea, but it's the idea of many people who are in this room and throughout the district. And so it's not a charge of one person, but of everybody. And so it is an idea that we have. And so the book that I want to read, it's not a children's book, it's a book for everybody. And I just want you to think about connections as I quickly read this. One day I had an idea. Where did it come from? Why is it here? I wondered, what do I do with an idea? At first I didn't think much of it. It seemed kind of strange and fragile. I didn't know what to do with it, so I just walked away from it. I acted like it didn't belong to me, but it followed me. I worried what others would think, what people would say about my idea. I kept it to myself. That way, I hid it. I hid it away, and I didn't talk about it. I tried to act like everything was the same as it always was before my idea showed up. But there was something magical about my idea. I had to admit, I felt happier and better when it was around. It wanted food, it wanted to play. Actually, it wanted a lot of attention. It grew bigger, and we became friends. I showed it to other people, even though I was afraid of what they might say. I was afraid that if people saw it, they would laugh at it. I was afraid that they would think it was silly, and many of them did. And they said it was no good. They said it was too weird. They said it was a waste of time and that it would never become anything. And at first, I believed them. I actually thought about giving up on my idea. I almost listened to them. But then I realized, what do they really know? This is my idea, I thought. No one knows it like I do, and it's okay to be different and weird and maybe a little crazy. I decided to protect it, to take care of it. I fed it good food, I worked with it, I played with it, but most of all, I gave it my attention. My idea grew, and so did my love for it. I built it a new house, and one with an open roof where it could look up to the stars, a place where it could be safe to dream. I liked being with my idea. It made me feel more alive, like I could do anything. It encouraged me to think big, and then to think bigger. It shared its secrets with me. It showed me how to walk on my hands, because it said, it's good to have the ability to see things differently. I couldn't imagine my life without the idea. Then one day, something amazing happened. My idea changed right before my very eyes. It spread its wings, it took flight, and it burst into the sky. I don't know how to describe it, but it went from being here to being everywhere. It wasn't just a part of me anymore. It is now a part of everything. And what we have is an idea so that we do not have to look at disproportionality, an idea that operationalizes our mission that all students are important, an idea that it doesn't matter your race, your zip code, your gender, your sexual orientation, your socioeconomic status, or anything that you come to school with. But at school, in our education system, in Rockwood, we're going to take all of those other pieces away because we're going to offer kids the just right supports that they need through a system of multi-tiered supports. So that is the way that we want to move forward. And we ask for you to join and embrace our idea with us.
Thank you, Jay. Very good. And now if you guys have any questions.
I want to make a comment while they're, again, formulating their questions. Glenn, I'm going to do this publicly because I just thought of it, and I think it's good for the board to hear, and I've wanted to share with you. I talked with Terry the other day. You all like to visit schools. I really encourage you, when you have a chance, if you have never been in Dan Pozo's class at Westridge Elementary School, get there. Dan is a phenomenal teacher who is innovative in what he does. If you follow me on social media, you'll see, you noticed a week or so ago, he's the only teacher I know that has a remote party button where at any moment, any time, kids can turn the room environment into a party mode where a bubble blower starts blowing things out. The lights are connected to it, and they start flashing, and music starts playing, in a pretty cool system. It's all Dan's, by the way. The reason I'm mentioning Dan is a very simple assessment piece that he's doing. Terry's aware of it going on in other buildings too, but it's caught on at Westridge in all different grade levels. There's 8 different teachers doing it from kindergarten on up. But Dan has a iPad. I'm sure it's his own, but it's Velcroed to the door. And Dan's 4th grade, and when kids come in every day, they kind of sign in / check in on the iPad relative to how they're feeling at the beginning of the day. And Glenn, your data, the way you organize your data on discipline, it's very similar. Dan has then he's graphing to look for patterns that he can share with parents. You know, imagine if you have a child and Dan finds out midway through the year the child's experiencing anxiety at home. He can look and see if there are patterns with the days of the week, times of the year, or what have you. But it just so fits with what we're talking about, the social emotional piece, and it's so simple. And it's really caught on at Westridge, and again, there's even to have kindergartners do that. How important could that data be from their own minds to say how they're feeling, and to do it over time so it really has value, and it's robust, you know, in what it does. So it's just something I think, honestly, I think if I were, I know I'm taking that with me. If I were around, I would look for ways to turn that into something that we incentivize our buildings to have people doing those examples, so we could do some samples to see what we could do with that data, because it fits.
And is he doing that just when kids are on their way in?
Just on their way in.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It'd be
kind of, I think,
interesting to compare on their way out.
Yeah, there could be that. I think his idea is just to, you know, start simple, but just with, and it's real casual. The kids, which again, Dan has something, because the kids in his classroom just love him, and but just to, I think mainly just to really track how the kids are coming and feeling in the morning, and if we can do something with that data.
She spent over spring break doing that, by the way. I was talking to
Yeah.
him about that. I mean, you talk about dedication. That's what he did on spring break.
Yeah.
Just do that to his room. I mean, it is really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. I have a quick question. So did I hear you guys right? So you actually have the reasons in your data for the discipline? You see all that as well?
So like the infraction.
Right.
If tardies.
Right. You see.
truancy.
So you're seeing all that.
Yes. Yes. So this was a snapshot.
Okay.
But each so we can see district-wide, and then each individual building has access to their particular building.
Okay.
And they can slice it any which way they want. It's just a click of a button and drilling down in all those different areas.
I would really like to see maybe you guys come back in, let's do maybe September-ish, October-ish.
We would love to.
And kind of fill us in on where you're at. I mean, this is a really important topic. And
Yeah, and we talked about that. This group, it's really funny, our journey and just getting ready for this presentation. Of course, we've been having these meetings all year long with the others involved. I don't want to leave them out. But this presentation started and it was about 20 slides, but we know that, our time constraint probably would not have been great. So we would love to do that
Okay.
because we had some slides and we took them out. We put them
Please
in,
do,
we took
yeah.
them out. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I have 2 questions, a comment, and an advertisement. Dan is a graduate of Maryville's undergraduate education program. Eric forgot to mention that. And that's for you two when you get done at Merrimack and you think about Maryville. That's the advertisement.
I know he is.
The 2 questions. Terry, I see where trauma is involved in the first one, but do you see it somewhere down the road falling as one of the major parts underneath the umbrella as a part by itself? Is it growing that fast that might eventually get to the point where it's going to have to be something by itself?
Yes. So there's a statewide commission task force that was just created, trauma-informed practices for the entire state. So everyone is talking about trauma. But I think trauma is somewhat of a buzzword. It's not necessarily new. Kids have always had trauma. I think that we now have tools to be able to create spaces where kids can talk about trauma. And then we have teachers who are actually looking for it. Like Dr. Count said earlier, if you take a look at the umbrella and the drops under, we can change any one of those things and add trauma-informed. So it's important enough that all 4 of our high schools are talking about it. It's important enough that we, for the last 4 or 5 years, during our teacher education conference, we had presentations on it. So yes, it's very important.
What does RBIT stand for?
Rockwood Behavior Intervention Team.
Oh, okay.
And so we have a new position last year that you approved, thank you very much, of a behaviorist that supports us K through 12. And so that is a team, and it is a partnership with us and SSD. So we employ some of the components of that team, and so does SSD. But we work together for serving all kids who might be having behaviors that are taking away from their learning in the classroom.
Great. Now this other one is for Jane. I am so glad you read that book, Jane. The reason.
Thank you. My hands are still sweating.
Yeah. Well, besides, you did a good job, but I thought maybe they just brought you up because you're getting ready to retire and they wanted to showcase you one time before you retire. That's all my question.
I just want for a point of clarification. We know what ISS and OSS stand for. The public may not.
Sure.
Could just
Add that on.
yeah. I mean, just for clarity tonight.
Sure.
Just
Absolutely.
In-school suspension and
Right.
out-of-school suspension.
yeah. I just want to make sure that the public that watches knows what those terms mean.
So the whole point of a multi-tiered system of support is to keep kids in school, because if they're out of school because of disciplinary reasons, then that takes away our opportunity for them to learn.
Absolutely.
And
But
one
the
more
out-
time, what's the title of your book?
What do you do with an idea? And that is the gift that we'll give our teachers. We always give at preschool our teachers a gift that they actually use with their kids, so they can then read this and give the kids the gift of what to do with an idea, even at a preschool age.
They're good, aren't they? Here, Jenny.
And I'm just going to say, I don't have a problem with you putting together 20 slides. I mean, if it has information, don't look at me that way. If it has information that is really, really good, I don't have a problem with that. I think what we're saying is during your presentation, we don't necessarily have to see the 20 slides, but, you know, that the data piece here, there are certainly tons of slides that you could throw together.
And we
that would show it.
contemplated that. That's what I said. We put some in and took some out and put some
Right.
in. And this is such a complex, deep, layered topic that we could do it with fewer slides. The slides really wasn't the topic as much as the intro of just let's get the conversation started and kind of some background, you know, to your point, Tammy, of, you know, what is ISS, what is OSS, what is ARBIT, what are we doing with our behavior interventions? Where do we see those disproportionality gaps? Because we want to address those and talk about the plans we're doing to address those, but we felt like we had to kind of start at the beginning. And
Yeah, that's good, but when we talk about what you just talked about tonight, that's the heart and soul right now of what we're talking about in Rockwood. You know, the Masonic Lodge gave money for kids to eat. Rockwood Gives Back. We're constantly talking about how to help our families. What you're doing is just that right now, and something that you've instilled in everyone in Rockwood. That's such an important part of who we are and who we're trying to become. So I think the update's a great idea, and next time, 20 slides.
Love it.
It's less contemplation, more slides.
Yes.
The last thing tonight is we're talking about our board retreat, and this would be an excellent time to have you all back for that. So
Awesome.
keep
We'd love
that in
to.
mind, and we'll
Okay.
chat about that.
Sure.
It'd be a good timing. Yeah.
Let's come together.
I'm going to disagree with Laura Lee. I wish you'd shown all 20 plus added another 10 or 20.
Okay.
But I have nothing. I
Glenn
have
will be
nothing
so
else to do
excited.
tomorrow. I can stay as long as I want.
There you go.
We are.
Have a data rush, right?
Yeah, we need a sugar high though to get through it. But we are very, very passionate about this, as so many people in our school community are, and it's a big task, but it's the right task. We want all students to love school, love life, and be supported here at the same level and the same level of access. So we've got a lot of smart people here. I think we're going to figure it out.
So in Rockwood, what's really cool is we could spend a lot of time on academics, but this is what we get to spend our time on because we do so many things right, and so we get to focus on the whole child, and I think that's what's really cool. And this is the work.
The academics will come along if we can solve these other situations.
I agree. All right. Thank you very much. And no motion, right,
Are we
Janet?
done yet?
Next, though, I need a motion to approve the salary ranges as listed and a 3.2% salary increase for general support staff for the 2019-20 school year.
Moved.
I have a motion and a second. So we have Dr. Katie Rebele, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So this is the annual request. As you see attached are the ranges that are for our support staff positions. And then we're also seeking a 3.2 salary increase for general support staff.
Questions? Comments? All right. Wait, she has one. She's looking.
This matches the teachers' increase, right?
The general increase does, correct.
Yes.
Good point.
We add some positions. Like I'm looking at the digital resource programmer analyst.
Correct. We
Okay.
entered that through the budget process.
Okay.
That's a replacement of a position, but it is a new position. You're correct.
Because I noticed that there were some of those that didn't have any previous history. I want to make sure that I was understanding that the health and wellness supervisor, increased days.
Yeah, great eyes. That's why we yellowed those, so you would be
Yeah.
able to see those pretty quickly, just visually. But again, that's Amy Weir. Her days just went up, so we
Gotcha.
really tracked. You could see right above it is
Mhm.
redlined because we wanted to keep that history and data for anybody who, what happened to this position and where did this one go. So the yellow should draw your attention to that's a change. And then if there's no previous history, that means that would be a new position.
There are some new positions.
Yeah.
I think there were a couple that didn't have red lines above them. Is that right?
Correct.
You don't
Like-
have to go through
Like,
them.
for instance, the registrar at the secondary level.
Right. Yeah.
It's not technically a new position, but it is a new position. We've always had registrars at the secondary level, but they were secretary 2Bs, and it was just confusing because a registrar is a very difficult technical position. So it
Gotcha.
appears to be new, but it's an ongoing position. We just relabeled it so it would more accurately reflect what they do.
Thanks, Katie.
Pretty good? All right.
Understood.
Yep,
Excellent.
no, good question. So the motion is to approve the salary ranges as listed and a 3.2% salary increase. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that
Thank
passes.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Katie.
you. Next, Chief Financial Officer Paul Northington's going to come up, and we need a motion to postpone approval of revisions to Policy 1820, Wellness, until the May 2, 2019 Board of Education meeting.
Moved.
Motion and a second. Hello.
Thank you. Yes, the revision to policy 1820 wellness stems from a review that we had from DESE of our food service operation. And these revisions incorporate those recommendations by DESE. And also the other change when they're in there is also the change of the oversight responsibility. And in the initial, the current policy had the assistant superintendent of schools performing that oversight responsibility, and we're going to switch that over to the supervisor of wellness and health services, which more aligns with the wellness activities in the district. But for the most part, the framework of the policy stays the same. It really just addresses some of the new nutritional guidelines and references the USDA Smart Snacks guidelines. It also talks about our nutritional education and PE activities. And then really the new component is the assessment component, and they want you to have an assessment program in place at least every 3 years, and this policy addresses those recommendations.
Who does that go from to?
Excuse me?
Who does that go from to? Because you said you're switching.
Went from Dr. Counts
Yeah.
to Amy Weir.
Oh, okay. Amy know this?
Will. She does.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good morning, Amy. Guess
She does
what?
now. Here we just talk about social emotional learning, and look at you. She does now.
Yeah, we've had some discussions with Carmen's here, and Carmen's been part of the discussions. We're also going to update the regulation and part of the discussion with Dr. Counts and also Dave Cobb.
Anything? Any questions? You guys good? All right, so the motion is to postpone approval of revisions to policy 1820. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Next, we're going to stay with Paul for the motion to approve the purchase of 35 2020 Bluebird Vision unleaded buses and trade in 28 of our 2017 Bluebird Vision and 7 2014 Bluebird Vision diesel buses for the FY20 refresh of our current bus fleet.
Move.
That was good, wasn't it?
Okay.
Okay, you're up.
Let me say something real quick before Paul speaks. I asked Paul to do this. In reality, we could have pushed this through consent, but I know on a night that everybody wants to get out. I thought it was just valuable, though, because it's a big purchase. We're still proud of our efforts to bring transportation in-house, and this is just continuing to play out that plan. And I felt because of the dollar amount, it just made sense to have Paul talk about what we're doing. So we're being very transparent, continuing to be very transparent about our efforts with transportation.
You know, talk about what the reasons for doing this is in the long run, it's going to save us money on maintenance and repairs of our buses.
Exactly. I mean, the newer fleet will certainly have less needs, but it also addresses a proactive plan to go ahead and start a refresh. Predominantly when we went in-house 3 years ago, all those buses were purchased new, and you don't want to wait till year 8 or year 10. So we're starting to refresh. So this will actually be the first year of an 8-year plan to refresh our regular bus fleet that really encompasses 170 buses. So this is 35 of that this first year, and then that number will go down as we head into the 8-year system. And basically the plan is to trade in about $1 million a year net trade. So
Recycling through.
that's correct. And the other thing to note here, and we talked about this when we did our transportation update in February, is we're trading in diesel buses and we're going to replace them with unleaded. So we're going to look at that transition, see how it works. If it works well for us, then we'll continue that transition in years 2 and beyond.
We have the option when we go to the next trade-in set, if the unleaded isn't proving to be financially sound, we could still go with diesel. Is that
That's correct. So this will be an annual decision that we make. So this isn't an all or nothing situation.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Did we start this in 2014?
No, we actually bought a few used buses when we went in-house. The
That's all right.
majority were new 17s, but there were a few 14s built.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay. I like the trade-in value. That's good.
And we got, again, it speaks well to our transportation department and the folks that perform the maintenance on the buses. We got a real good value on the 17s. They're very well maintained, so that's reflected in trade-in values.
Should be pretty consistent every year then, shouldn't it? That we'd like to pay maybe $900,000?
As you go forward, the cost of the bus will go up, and
that's
the
true.
value of the bus will go down. So that's why we're starting with 35 this year. It'll roll
Okay.
That number will roll downward as we go further into the process, so it's kind of front-end loaded.
Great idea, thanks.
Yeah.
So the malt shop is in Fenton, Missouri. And there's nothing like being at the malt shop on a Tuesday, what is tonight, Thursday? Tuesday night, like I was, and there were 2 Rockwood school buses in the parking lot stopping for ice cream afterwards. It's just so cool to see our buses that say our name on them. So this is good that we're doing this, for sure. So thank you. Any other questions or comments? Can really go for some ice cream now. All right, the motion is to approve the purchase of all the buses that I listed. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're almost to the end, right? So I need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted.
Move.
We have a motion and a second. So who's starting? Chris Friend?
All right, yes.
Okay.
This is a facilities purchase for equipment, for mowing equipment, which I know is dear to your heart, Laura Lee. It is 2 more zero-turn mowers for our grounds fleet. We have 4 mowing crews that take care of the district, and 2 of these mowers are on each crew, and this is just basically a refresh of those equipment, those mowers.
They sometimes just like finish at one place, and by the time they get through everywhere else, they're back at the same place.
Every week.
Yeah.
During the mowing season, that's what our 4 mowing crews do. They each have a schedule of about 8 or 9 sites, and when they finish the 9th, they're going back to the 1st.
Okay, can you please let me know when these come in?
Yes, absolutely.
You say that all the time, but you never let me know when they come in. All right. Anything else on this one?
Who's going to get those older John Deeres?
We actually trade them in to the vendor that we're purchasing from, and they'll put them on
They'll
a
put 'em on the
resale
market?
site, yes.
Are they in good shape?
By the time we're done with them, they're pretty rough. We put
Okay.
a lot of hours on mowers every year.
That's all I needed to know.
I like your honesty.
A mileage.
Yes. For a deal. Yes.
All right, anything else on that one? Even though we could talk about mowers all night. The motion is to approve the bond issue purchases, $7,500 to $150,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you. And the next one, I need a motion to approve the bond, right? That's it for that. Now I'm moving on to the next one? Okay. Motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Kolb Grading and renovation for existing parking lots, curbs, and sidewalks at the current Eureka Elementary School.
There was one other.
There was one more.
Yes.
That's
It wasn't
why
a
I said it.
facilities-related item.
There's
it's
rubber cabinets.
Yep, so go ahead, Bob. My apologies.
It was on the, you're on the right spot.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it is at Ridge Meadows Elementary, the renovation room. Their pre-existing cabinetry that was there was in pretty bad shape, and so this is to replace that cabinetry so that room actually has adequate storage, because currently it does not.
That one? All right, so we already had that motion, so we're good on that, okay? And then the last one is the motion to approve the bond issue purchases, which I already read. So, Chris?
So this purchase
Do
is.
we have a motion on that?
Sorry.
No, we didn't get
We need a motion and a second?
Move.
Sorry. Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Perfect. All right, this is for Kolb Grading. This is for a project at the existing Eureka Elementary School. As we know, we are going to transition into the new building next school year. That gave us an opportunity to construct our own bus lot to support our fleet in the Eureka area. So part of this project does include a road extension to the backside of that campus, as well as a new parking lot to house those buses. The other part of the project is actually renovating the existing lot, sidewalks, and making some ADA improvements at that site. Even though it's not going to be an elementary school, it is going to be an early childhood center for the Eureka area. So there's some improvements that we needed to make to the existing campus as well.
Will that open in September or August?
Yes, everything is scheduled to open up next school year.
Okay.
How much do
The
we pay for?
asphalted, correct?
Excuse me?
That's asphalt, the new lots.
The existing parking lot will be asphalt. The bus lot will actually be concrete.
Okay.
With the heavier buses, we chose to go with a thicker profile, hard surface.
How much do we pay for the bus lot now? Renting it? Leasing it?
Paul would be able to answer that.
Leasing the
How
bus
much we
lot
pay?
in Eureka, how much? Oh, wow.
We approved to build a parking lot back there? Yes. I was checking you, Eric. I thought we did.
You're getting ready to, at least.
And Anything else on that? All right, so the motion is to approve the bond issue purchases over $150,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right,
How many kids are going to be at this new early childhood center?
thank you. Thank you.
Match up with Vandover? Hmm? Okay, good. Oh, Laura Lee, I want to pull a Herman. You remember Herman? He used to always look at hockey scores.
Yes.
It is nothing to nothing with 3 minutes gone.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Kinder, a.k.a. Herman.
For back up just a tad, I'm going to, again, I want the board to be aware of this, and I'm going to do this publicly, asking Chris to look into this, and he's probably a little aware of it. We were talking about grounds. At South today, you know, we've had some teachers do some really great things through grants and with gardening and adding some, you know, flowers and whatnot. And there's a hill, I understand, that's extremely hard to mow. And I think that our grounds crew was talking to Lori Birkenmeyer and one of the teachers about maybe incorporating some plants and flowers and things on that hill. And I thought it was a great idea, and I love that they were honoring. I think I think that it's actually a hill where they have to attach the mower to a truck of some sort, correct? Yeah. It's a really nasty hill. Yeah. So anyway, what I wanted to first of all, I think it's great that I'm escaping the teacher's name. Yes. She is actually even will go out and ask for help if she sees a neighborhood home that has great landscaping, and she's been doing this just out of her love for it and getting these grants and beautifying the campus. But I thought that maybe if we could help her out instead of having her get a grant, if that's really something, Chris, that you look into and think is a valuable thing to keep and a safe thing. She was asking me things about, you know, worried about erosion, about prepping it for those kinds of things. But I thought we're obviously going to have a savings if we do that of time and less use on equipment. If we can find a way to incorporate some of that savings instead of having her to go secure a grant to get that done, I think it's a win-win for everybody, and the students, I think, are involved in it as well. So it just seemed like a great idea, and she's so excited about it. And she was talking about, well, I think I can find a grant for this and that. I said, well, you know, let's talk about it, because if we're going to save money, we can find ways to shift, you know, those expenses, you know, one time, to save forever, not having to go through the mowing of that
Maybe
spot.
an issue of the native grasslands that could be perfect there to
Yeah.
hold erosion.
Yeah. Right. If you would
Look at
check
us,
into that,
solving
that'd be
the
great.
world's problems at 8:50 at night. It's amazing. All right, good ideas. COPE committee. We're going to talk about the board retreat.
Yep. So Lynn and I had a chance to meet while Randy was catching some rays in Mexico, and we decided that going through the MSBA presentations, we really feel like that's just going to be where we need to put our focus. And you know, we've covered a lot of the kind of extra topics, and we cover those things throughout our meetings. So we didn't feel like there was anything that needed to hit this agenda. So we're looking at Janet sent out some possible dates to everybody, which is going to be our most challenging thing to figure out. What I would like to propose, based on everyone's feedback, is that we consider a daytime August 20th or 22nd, if that's a possibility to work. And what we'll do is we'll have a morning, like 9 to 11 MSBA session, break for lunch, And then we will welcome some topics such as the thing we talked about tonight, maybe the way forward update. We've got a list of a few things, and we just thought that might be a great retreat day for the board, but also for Mark to be part of that and hear those kind of updates. So check your calendars.
What was the dates you gave us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Those were
I'm
some
good
of
on
them.
those.
Well, I know
So it's a Tuesday or a Thursday?
yeah, the Tuesday, there's an alt meeting.
Okay.
A leadership meeting all morning.
So Thursday is, so the 22nd is where we're at. 22nd.
A board night.
No.
It's not a board night. All those in favor so far?
I don't think my wife will mind me missing our anniversary that day. Well, it's not that day. I just made that up. It's 3 days before.
All right, you guys send out a
Yep.
calendar.
Yeah, and I'm gonna check with Mark, since.
What?
Mark,
Ours.
Mark.
Mark, and we'll need to check with MSBA.
Yeah. Check with
So
him.
we'll finalize those things, and then Lynn and I have a list going of some ideas for that day. So once we get together with Janet and find out that that date's going to work, we'll shoot an email out with those
No, 'cause the
topics.
sooner we have that list to see what cabinet level people
Yes.
and alt team people we need to be there, because that's a school day, so I'm
Yep.
not sure.
Right. Okay, and I can get you that tomorrow. 'cause
Okay.
I've got that at home.
Chris Friend just said it's 1-0 Blues.
Yes.
You're right. It is.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
You know,
All right,
I read
thank you.
in the legislative bulletin Eric gave out about organizations like MSTA and other organizations which are counted as lobbyists, that they're not going to be able to provide free stuff anymore. It's going to.
Well, they're trying to do that. I mean, the
Well, yeah.
legislation is trying to, but it's not going to get the legs it needs, because it goes way beyond even what that intent is, because there are things that aid schools and that vendors do for schools to provide for things that I'm drawing a blank on an example right now, but it's far-reaching, and I hope that that's not
It's mainly for lobbyists.
Yeah, it's the intent.
To calm
but-
them down.
Right.
But we belong to MSTA, so that should be an automatic. That's
Right.
one consideration.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest with you, it's the effort is because these crazy ideas about expanding charter schools in Missouri, it's not good for Missouri, for vouchers, so on and so forth. They keep coming up, and we keep fighting them back, and the proponents are frustrated with the effort to fight it back, and
Yeah.
they think that these lobbyists are part of that, so they want to silence them and stifle our voice.
I heard it was like it was a way of punishing the public schools
That's exactly
by
what it-
requiring this because they didn't vote for the charter schools.
Right.
Gee, I can't believe the government would do that.
All right, we good with the retreat?
Talk about that later.
Excellent. Okay, proposed agenda for the May 2nd, 2019 Board of Education meeting, and that is next Thursday, is that correct?
It is.
Oh, goodness.
Yes.
Boy is right.
I think we should require Beth's mother and aunt to come back.
Hopefully someone's giving them breakfast. All right, we good? Everybody look it over?
Yep.
All right, good. Moving right along. And future agenda presentations and events to attend.
Show.
I know, that's what, right here. Saturday and
Yes.
Sunday, April 27th, 28th, is the art show, as you've already mentioned. Anything else anyone wants to add to that?
Talk about it next week.
It's ILC graduation. It's coming up, isn't it? May 12th?
It's on our calendar, I believe.
I don't want to
Lisa,
look
do you
that up
know?
on her to tell me.
All the graduations as well.
May
20
16th.
16th?
Yep.
1-6.
20, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Remember, my kid's graduating on the 21st, so I'm going to hand out a lot of diplomas, just telling you. All right, anyone else? We good? All right, let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you for coming, everyone. It's